Another suggestion, a drama in 7 parts. Any comments will be very gratefully received. Part 7 continued. I'll just go back a few paragraphs. 1 paragraph. And now Trinity-tide. And now Trinity-tide. Pray these volumes with all your hearts from this moment on, every day of your lives, I beg of you. Why should we? I hear you cry. What's the point? What's going on? Let me try to begin to answer that question with another question. What do you find when you open up these 3 volumes? You find, first of all, a prayer when you wake up called the Office of Readings. Then a prayer when things get going a bit called morning prayer. Then a prayer in the heaving, throbbing heart of the day called prayer during the day. Then a prayer when things are starting to wind down called evening prayer. And then a prayer before you go to sleep called night prayer. They've all got something in common, these prayers. They've all got 3 psalms. Actually, night prayer's only got 1 or 2 psalms, but that's just the exception that proves the rule, obviously. What on earth are psalms? What on earth does this strange word that begins with a PS when it should begin with an S and has an L in it when it should have an R, what on earth does this strange weird word mean? What's a psalm when it's at home? Why do we have to bother with them? Psalms tell it like it is. That's what psalms are. Psalms call a spade a spade. Psalms are humanity in the raw. When the songwriter who writes a psalm, and they are songs, by the way, when the songwriter who writes a psalm is having bad thoughts about his enemies, he doesn't just say, I'm having bad thoughts about my enemies. He pleads with God to let him see the dogs licking the blood out of his enemies' dead bodies. Give me that satisfaction, he cries. But these blood-curdling, bloodthirsty cries from the heart of the psalmist get over 2 very important points. First, the songwriter-psalmist never declares, I will strike you down, O my enemy. I will strike you down and watch the dogs lick the blood from your ripped open bodies. No, he doesn't say that. Instead, he pleads with God to do this terrible deed for him. That's the first point. In other words, the man, or woman for all we know, who wrote that psalm that I am poring over just now in my divine office, is always completely powerless. He pleads with God to strike his enemies down, but he knows that he is completely powerless to do this by himself, and he says so in no uncertain terms. In other words, powerless to strike back against his enemies, but unfailing in his belief that God will do that for him. And what's the second point? The second point is a question. Who is my enemy? Why are they my enemy? What have they done to be my enemy? What have they done? I'll tell you what they've done, cries the psalmist. They've insulted my God. That's what they've done. my God, who I love with all my heart and all my soul and all my mind and all my strength. They've insulted him. They've treated him like dirt. That's who my enemy is, cries the psalmist. That's why they're my enemy. They have insulted my God. May death fall down upon them like knives through their heart and swords through their lungs, and may the dogs rip open their flesh like vultures feeding upon carrion. That's who my enemy is, cries the psalmist, a God insulter. So should I hate my enemy? Should I hate this despicable God insulter who confronts me? Yes, I should, if I'm prepared to hate my own self. Because who is this God insulter but me? You see, there's a war going on here, and I'm on two sides of it. You've heard the phrase, I am my own worst enemy. That's true. I am the God insulter who must be slaughtered. When I hear the psalmist railing against those who insult God and calling down God's vengeance upon them, I feel the full force of his cry blazing out towards me. The full force of his cry catches out my heart in the moment of its attack on God and pleads with me to break free. In other words, I am forced by the power of the psalmist's cry to mourn over my own sinfulness and crave with a newly yearning heart for my own goodness. My own goodness. My goodness. Do I have any goodness? Yes, I do, says the psalmist. I have it in spades, and it is welling up within me, if only I will let it. That's what the psalmist is trying to say to me. My goodness is welling up within me, if only I will let it. And the third point is, I know I only said there were 2 points, but there is just one more, sorry about that. And the third point about the Psalms is that they are a replay button. When we hit the Psalms, we are hitting a replay button which sets going a time machine into replaying millions of years of salvation history. Us human beings have been walking around with blinkers over our eyes since time began. We have to keep hitting the replay button over and over again to pick up what we've missed. Here's something out of night prayer on Saturday evening, the vigil of Sunday, the Lord's Day. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. And what does all that mean?